Hey guys, welcome back to the Diaries of the Neurospicy Coach. I'm so excited for today's episode because I think this one is like not spoken about enough. And I think everyone wants a diagnosis but don't really know what that looks like. I'm going to read up the title, right, because it's a mouthful and I've been like tripping over my words because I'm day 2 of cycle. I always time this right, don't I? So the identity crisis of realizing your whole personality was a coping mechanism, right? Like this one hit home for me. Like when I look back at my life and what I used to do, that wasn't me at all. Like honestly, like I look at that now and I just realize that I was just coping. It was something just to cope. Like, if you look at my life from my teens and, wherever, it's a completely different lifestyle now. Obviously, like I'm a professional bodybuilder now. Like back then, I lived for the weekends, the crowd I hang around with. Um, it was just I look back now, I'm like, oh my God, how was I like that? And even like not being able to leave the house without a spray tan. I'd have a spray tan every week without fail. Every Friday, a full spray tan. Lashes, I'd have my lashes done every single week. I used to do like the weekend lashes. A full face of makeup. Like that was me 24/7. Like I used to wake up, oh my God, so early for work just to make sure that I looked presentable to leave the house. And I thought that was normal and it wasn't, right? So I wrote loads of bullet point down here because I'll never remember this on top of my head. And as always, I don't want to go off on a tangent, which I tend to do. So what the diagnosis moment actually felt like for me, right? So I can't obviously speak on everyone's behalf. So did I think I was? No. Never thought, never once did I think, oh, I'm definitely neurodivergent. Um, it wasn't until I started like Googling my symptoms and stuff, and it was obviously coming up more. So the more I did research it, that's obviously what made me want to look into obviously having an autism and an ADHD test done. So even in my heart of hearts, I was like, I feel like I am, but then I was also like scared in case I weren't. Because I feel like, well, if it's not that, what's wrong with me? Is it just me? Am I just a weirdo? Whatever. And also, my family swore blind that I wasn't. Like, no, you definitely not. That's ridiculous. Why are you doing that? Whatever. So it was a mixed bag going into my tests. So my first test I had done was my autism one, and I got actually diagnosed with Asperger's, which they don't they don't call it that anymore. They just say, they just say autism. So when I added through, because I went private, when I went through the NHS, they just said it's just autism now. It's just autism. There's no different levels. It's just autism, which is wild to me because there's obviously clearly different types of them. Um, and I remember doing the test, right? And I bawled my eyes out doing it. Like I just sat down, obviously nervous, didn't know what to expect. The woman was amazing. She was so lovely. And I was doing one of the tests. And when I say I could not do it, like I could not do it. And I think it was the word and she used as well, which made me feel so much shame. She basically said to me, this is like a children's test, but it's really good for the autism one. And those words, children, child, a child can do this. That's all is in my head. A child can do this, and I couldn't do it. I I just cried. I literally like bawled my eyes out. It took an ages to calm me down. And it was just horrendous. I hated it, right? So she was like, right, okay, we'll skip past that. And then I had my diagnosis then like a few days later. Obviously it came up autism. And I cried. Like it's making me feel really emotional actually, like thinking about that, because I felt like a really weird time of my life. I cried for ages and no one prepared me for that feeling at all. And I like just kept thinking like, I felt embarrassed by it. Like I just felt embarrassed. I felt angry. I felt let down. I felt disappointed. Like I can't like, and with neurodivergent brains as well, we don't do well with feeling a lot of emotions at once. And all I could do was cry. Like you'd swear somebody had died. Like that's how frantic I was. I was like, I just felt all these emotions. Um, I felt like my life was going to change. Like, so before the test, I thought my life was going to change for the better. And then after the test, I thought my life was going to change for the worst. I kept saying to myself, if everyone knows I'm neurodivergent, no one's going to want to be coached by me anymore. People are going to think I'm weird. Autism, that confirms that I'm weird. Like all these horrible, horrible thoughts. And it was only when my therapist said to me, nothing changes, Lo. Like nothing changes. And I was just like, well, of course it does. And she's like, well, you're telling me now you're stepping into a different personality now because you're neurodivergent. And I was like, well, no. And she was like, well, you're the same person. And it's like that reality of like, okay, but it was more of like grieving. I grieved. Like, you can't help but think, if I had support at 4 years old when my teacher called me arrogant and rude, would I have excelled better in school? Probably. Or I could have loads of limiting beliefs and I might have not been, as successful as I am today, with bodybuilding and stuff like that. So you feel so many emotions, right? Feel them. Your feelings are valid, right? And I've had to go through it with so many of my clients because loads of my clients have been diagnosed since being with me. And I just think it's an amazing thing, right? And as I said, like the questions start flooding in. And also like having a late diagnosis as well, it means that like your life is basically built on misunderstanding, lots of mistakes, lots of traumas as well. Like it's built on lots of rubbish stuff. And the thing is, like all the stuff that happens at childhood, we bring into our adulthood as well. So like for me, it was like having toxic friends, toxic relationships, and that all stemmed from me being very young, going through my teens and stuff like that. We carry it through with us as well, right? So why it hits women harder, right? So we were socialized to mask earlier, right? So what that basically means, because we with boys, they're a little bit more out in the open with it. With us females, we learn to externalize it. So that's the thing with ADHD, hyperactive ADHD for boys. You would think of the typical naughty boy, like, causing chaos in school, blah, blah, blah. For a girl, what it actually looks like is someone who's extremely quiet. Not all the time. Sometimes they are hyperactive, like, outside. But for girls, usually, like, especially for me, super quiet, super anxious, really like scared of my own shadow. That's what it looked like. So I had to learn to mask from an early age, because if I didn't mask, I'd have no friends. And if I was my true self, no one would like me. Like, so we learn to mask from a very, very, very like young age. And when I look at my life, because I can obviously remember things, like I was a wild child as a baby and a toddler, wild. And then I went into my shell, like really quiet. And it's like, obviously through those years, I learned how to mask. And it's really sad that we can do that, because now it's like, when you do get a diagnosis, like society's not very nice. It's like, oh, it's a trend. Wish it was, hadn't. Do you know what I mean? And then recognizing your traits as survival strategies as well. So like the people pleasing. So we learned from a young age, being agreeable kept us safe. So like never ever questioning anyone, ever, just saying yes, like, and I'm not guilty of it, but I was a victim of this when I worked for another coaching team. I was burnt out because I kept saying yes, 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 and he expected so much from me, but I wanted to be like, oh, well, I'm pleasing this person, like, maybe I'll get good things from this, but in reality, people just start disrespecting you and they'll expect more from you. And then like you'll end up resenting that person there, because you just think you're doing it because they like you or they love you or whatever, or you might get a promotion in work, but in reality people just start disrespecting you. And it's really sad, do you know what I mean? But that's typically what happens. But the people pleasing, as I said, you'll just start seeing, when you stop people pleasing, you also realize who your friends are, because I lost a lot of friends when I started saying no. Because we are scared of saying no, because you're like, oh my god, this will happen, that will happen. The reality is, if you say no and someone that doesn't like it, you've just shown yourself who's a true friend and who's not. The overachieving as well, right? So in school, people might not have thought you were neurodivergent because you smashed all your exams, like you smashed all your coursework and things like that. Like you were this really bright person. And then like your parents like, no way, no, my daughter can't be neurodivergent because, she can't have ADHD because she never missed school, loved school, pass straight A's, A stars, whatever. Sometimes it looks like that. That wasn't the case for me. Like I struggled in school. Like I couldn't concentrate to save my left toe. Honestly, like I didn't have the best of grades, but for some people, we do. That's the way we sort of overachieve, is just to be, we try to fit into society then, and then people expect things from us, and you go to uni and things like that, but actually people on the outside think, oh, we're just naturally bright, but they don't see what it took to get there, or the sacrifices, like, and everything like that. Do you know what I mean? And then the humor, right? So deflecting before anyone could hit the punchline, right? So what that means is, if we have like an insecurity with ourselves or anything like that, right, or we're scared of something, we will take the piss out of ourselves, right? So it can be anything. I'm trying to think of like an example of this. And I see this quite often as well. It's like, or what can I say? So for example, if someone's competing or something, like, and you'd be like, oh, nah, I'll never get to that level. I never turn pro because I love food too much. Like, I never do that. It's you're deflecting. Like, do you know what I mean? That's like an excuse. Do you know what I mean? That you never turn pro because of something, but actually you could, but you're scared that you wouldn't get to that level, so you need a reason. Do you know what I mean? Or it could even be like actually your visuals as well. So you could say, like, call yourself, if you feel like you got a big forehead, you could be like, oh yeah, I'm like Megamind. Even though that's your biggest insecurity, you'll say it just in case somebody else says it. So it'll come across as like a humor thing, and like you don't really care about it and it's funny, so people will laugh along with it, but actually it's the biggest insecurity. So we start doing that. And again, it's how we speak to ourselves. Like, we've been through school, we get bullied, whatever, and now we are being the bullies. But like, you wouldn't speak to anyone else like that, so why would you speak to yourself like that? Do you know what I mean? Would you ever say to someone like, oh, you look like Megamind? And I know that sounds funny, but you'd never dream. So why would you say that to yourself? I'm not saying whoever's watching this, you got a big forehead is the first thing that came to me. The hyper independence, right? This is the biggest thing that my clients struggle with, right? Who come to me. So even me, right? I remember when I first met Ben, my husband, I did everything myself. And if you watch the episode before this, I spoke about burnout, right? So hyper independent, and this usually is because we don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't want to rely on anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't want to get disappointed. We don't want to be let down, right? So I remember when I first met Ben, like, Ben would try to help me with so many different things. For example, like, if I wanted to buy something and I didn't have the money yet, he'd be like, oh, I can help you with that. No, I want it, I'll buy myself. If, for example, I was sat down and I had loads of work to do, client plans, whatever, check-ins, whatever it is, and I was like, I'm really hungry, he'd be like, I'll make you food for you now. And I'm like, no, I'll do it myself. And it's like things like that. Or like, if, for example, with Ted, if he needed to go for his injections, because obviously by this point, Theo wasn't born, I'd be like, no, like, I would rather burn myself out and ask for help ever. And I would never tell my coach I was struggling either. And that's the worst thing you can do. You're paying for your coach, but you're basically lying to them, because you're definitely not sticking to things if you're burnt out. And that's hyper independent. And honestly, and this is what I have to rewire my clients' brains with, because they will never ever like ask for help if they're struggling, because they're hyper independent. But the thing is, the reason why they are where they are is because they are hyper independent. When you pay for a service, take it. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if you go to a hairdresser's and they go to cut your hair, would you be like, no, give me the scissors? No, you wouldn't. You're paying for a service. Do you know what I mean? So like, you go into someone to cut your hair. If you pay for a makeup done, to go out or a photo shoot, wherever, would you take the makeup brushes off them and be like, no, I'm doing it? No, you wouldn't. So it's like the coaching's the same, right? You pay for a coach. So when you're struggling, you reach out and ask for expertise, right? So if you are someone who's hyper independent and you sabotage yourself because you won't ask for help and you'd rather struggle alone, please, please, please help. Not help. Ask for help, right? Because obviously I don't know who your coach is. Some of them, like, because I spoke to one of my clients actually yesterday, and I was like, before she started, I was like, did you communicate with your coach? Because that's a big issue for me. I'm very good at what I do, and I'm not afraid to say that, but I'm not Jesus, right? Like, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know if you're struggling or not. So communication for me is a big, big thing. I can't help you. If you can't communicate, I'm not the coach for you, because I'm not going to be able to help you. And I said to her, and she said, no, I didn't. She said, I know I should have, but she said, it wasn't a safe space for me. If I did ask for help, I'd feel shamed. Understood, right? Understood, because that's exactly how I felt with my coaches as well. I'd never ask for help because I felt stupid, because I'd get a stupid reply, right? So I absolutely get that, right? And then the perfectionism, right? So we just flawless all of the time. And that's the thing, like, people might see you and they think, oh God, she's like flawless all the time, like the perfect hair, the perfect makeup, the perfect outfits, like perfect, everything's perfect. But behind that mask is a girl who is drowning, burnt out, do you know what I mean? But she wants to put on this facade that she is perfect and she is amazing, do you know what I mean? And it's not even just about look either, it can be what we do in as well. Like a lot of us don't take risks or don't start something because if it's not perfect, why are we doing it? Lots of girls as well, they'll join my team, and if they're not very good communicators, if they are not perfect every week, they don't last, they leave, right? And I've said this a million times before, perfection doesn't exist. It only exists in our brain, and it's our brain trying to like hold us to a higher standard for safety reasons. Like we if we're not perfect, we're scared. We are scared for backlash. Like so our brain is trying to protect us, being like, right, okay, if you're not perfect, don't do that because you're gonna disappoint yourself and disappoint everyone else around you, so don't do it. But in actual fact, if you show up at 10% each week, you'll end up being 20%. And like, you look back 6 months down the line and you're like, wow, actually, do you know what? Like, I've smashed it. But you've got to give yourself that opportunity to do so. But normally we don't because we're scared of backlash, right? So we all think of those like these are like personality flaws, but they weren't. They'd all come under neurodivergent brain. So I put on here as well, grief over your past self. Obviously I've gone into this as well, right? So I won't go back into it too much, but grief is something that no one told me about. Like honestly, like it was like you're grieving for your life, but you're still alive. Like it's just the most bizarre feeling ever. And you also like you look back at your life and you realize why you did. So for example, my partying, for example, like addictive personality, like I wanted to impress people, I wanted to be like a people pleaser, I wanted everyone to like me, but that led to me trying to take my own life, right? So with that, even that, like when I look back, I'm like, people like, oh, did you plan it? No, right? And this is the thing, we're impulsive, right? So my parents said a small thing to me, and that was like I took it literal. I literally took it literal, and that was it. I was in my medication box, and I just took it. Didn't think about it. Done, right? And like I look back now, and I'm like, that makes me sad that I had to go through that because I was clearly struggling, and it was a lot to do with my ND brain, right? So even though it was like I want to give my younger self a hug, it was also like a lot of clarity for me of like, okay, I'm glad that I know now so I can protect myself just in case that does ever happen again. And the things like that, even friendships and stuff like that, it just all made sense. All made sense. My therapist was amazing with me as well. Like if you don't have therapy, definitely look into it, right? I know a lot of them are not the best, but you can get ones who aren't like ADHD based and stuff like that, and they are amazing. But I will say, right, if you're gonna have therapy, if you're gonna have once a month or once every other month or whatever, don't bother because honestly, it's not gonna do anything. I literally had mine once a week and it changed my life. I had that for a year and a half. And I feel like a different person. Like I'm here talking on camera, which it was something I was never able to do, right? Um, and then the terrifying blank space, right? So when you start dropping the coping mechanism, it's a period of not knowing who you are, right? So like I remember like I started dropping these way before my diagnosis, to be fair, right? And I think when I got into the fitness industry, it opened up a new light for me, a new passion. So it wasn't so hard, but like I gained a lot of confidence in myself through bodybuilding. So I no longer felt the need to have a spray tan every week. I'd have it for like different things, but never every week. I stopped having my eyelashes done. I stopped like, wearing a full face of makeup anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? The most I'll have on is like some concealer and some mascara now. So it was already like changing. But when I look back now, I just thought that I just wanted to wear makeup to feel good. But actually, it was a full-on coping mechanism. And if someone said to me, oh, fancy going here, I'll be here in 10 minutes, I'd say no. I'd rather lose out on the memory just so I could look good. But I just thought, like my mum used to say to me, and I know she'll regret this because I know she listens to this. So hi, mum. But my mum used to say to me, like, it's vanity. Like she said, you're vain. Do you know what I mean? And I know she'll be hurt when I say this now. But obviously it wasn't vanity. It was a coping mechanism because I physically couldn't walk outside the house because I struggled with eyesight anyway. Not eyesight, what's it called? Eye contact. Eyesight. And I had to do that to be able to show up as myself, right? So And I look back now, and I used to wear like really tight fitted clothing and things like that. Like I don't now. Like I'll just wear, if I want to wear a hoodie and joggers, I will. I don't care if I go out looking like a bag of shit. Like I'll embrace it. I love it. But I'll never wear like the skimpy house outfits anymore either, because again, it was like, I thought, oh, this actually passed my head. I'm like, oh my God, am I being a slag because I like having male attention? But it wasn't that I have male attention. It was because I felt so broken in myself and so low, and then like having abusive relationships, I had no confidence. So it was just giving me like a bit of a confidence boost, like, oh, okay, like, maybe people do want me, do you know what I mean? So then like that would reflect on that. And like now, like I wear whatever I want. I wear whatever I want. I don't give a shit. Like one of my friends said to me, she was like, you just dress like a boy. But I'm like, I've like, and this is the thing, I was always a tomboy. And then I went really girly. And it's like, while I feel like I'm like a happy medium now. But I was like, different parts of my life look different for different reasons. And I look now and it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Let's have a look. So, and that's the thing, like, so what I just said, basically the in between before you rebuild, right? That's a scary thing, because sometimes, like as I said, for me, when I got my diagnosis, I'd already changed. But if you hadn't changed and you realize that a lot of what you're doing is a coping mechanism, or it is to get sort of like, a bit of attention, but not attention in that way, like just to feel wanted or liked or wherever, the rebuild is hard, like, and no one ever speaks about that. And like, you might not realize it straight away, but the more you start looking inwards, you'll realize why you do certain things. And I think just give yourself grace and be kind to yourself as well, because as I said, we can be really horrible to ourselves as well, right? Let's have a little look, because I wrote down here about like athletic identity and stuff like that, but I'll go into it a little bit. I won't go into too much, because obviously I know a lot of my audience doesn't compete, but I'll just talk about it a little bit anyway. But like for me, I realized before my diagnosis, I remember I jumped on a podcast and I look back now and I'm like, that's really sad. What podcast was it? Have you ever heard of Compact? If you could be, you know what Compact is. And I went on, not just a bikini girl, I think it was called. And at the end you have to say like, oh, I'm not just a bikini girl, I'm also this. And my answer was, no, I am. That's literally all I am. And like she was like, oh right, okay. Like, and I look back now and I'm like, that's so sad. That's genuinely what I believed. I believed that everything about me was just being a bikini athlete. That was it. That was all it was good about me. That was all it was interested about me, was just being a bikini athlete. But it's a coping mechanism. Obviously, at that time when I first started competing, I was in a very abusive relationship, and I really, really heavily lent into bodybuilding. Which is sad, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because but at the same time, it was a coping mechanism, and I could have been coping in other ways which weren't quite kind, like drugs, alcohol, like gambling, whatever. Leading into bodybuilding wasn't the worst thing I could do. Did it look obsessive? Probably. Did it get me out the other side? Yes. Am I in one piece? Yes. So, is it a bad thing? I could argue that it's not. But yeah, so that's basically what I was like before that. My whole identity was that. Obviously I'm not, like, I'm a friend now, I'm a wife, I'm a dog mom, do you know what I mean? But right back then I didn't see that, right? And you'll also see this, I spoke about this a little bit last time as well, but like when prep ends, you can feel like this as well. And especially if you haven't got a diagnosis, you might feel a bit confused by this, but like through prep, you're thriving, and then off season comes and then you can feel really sad. Now, I actually did a content on this and somebody questioned me on my post, which I didn't agree with, which if you look, you can see. She just tries saying to me like it's the same for everyone, even neurotypicals, post show is the same for everyone. I disagree. It's not, right? It's not, because we make prep a whole personality, and then when it comes to post show, it's like we don't even know who we are anymore. We stop taking pictures of ourselves. We stop posing. We don't want to see ourselves in a mirror anymore. Like, and that's like all part of it as well. It's like we can have identity crisis through different phases if you allow yourself to. If you don't actually understand it, once you understand it, that obviously helps. So coping mechanisms that saved you were versus ones that harmed you, right? So not all of them you have to let go, right? So you can look at your coping mechanisms now, and some of them you might not even identify yet. So like for me, as I said, like alcohol was a big coping mechanism for me. And do you know what? If I'm honest, it still probably is in social situations, but I don't go out drinking all the time, right? So it's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something I like the taste of doing, like taste of like drinking and stuff. But I find if I go out with Ben, for example, or a friend, I'm fine. But if I go in a group setting, I need alcohol just to make me cope, because otherwise I get extremely tired. I'm really antisocial, and I'm just like, oh, do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't, like, it's not me having to get absolutely lathered, do you know what I mean? But I can sense myself like, okay, like I'll definitely need that just to be able to cope in that environment, because I enjoy the environment. Do you know what I mean? When I'm in it, I enjoy the environment, but obviously I don't drink all the time, do you know what I mean? But that's something, do you know what I mean? But if it's like for you, it could be gambling, it could be anything, and like you have to just have a look and think, okay, do I need to let go of that, or is it something that helps, do you know what I mean? So for example, people say to me, bodybuilding is obsessive. It's a coping mechanism for me. I enjoy it. It really helps my neurodivergent traits. Like, I love prep. I thrive through prep. Off season is a little bit more difficult, and that's more so like visuals, like just feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But other than that, I'm a healthy person. Do you know what I mean? Let's have a look. And the ones worth keeping come from like genuine joy, as I said as well. So like it's good to do like a little list, I think, of things that you think, right, what brings me joy and what doesn't bring me joy. Like, do you know what I mean? For example, coping mechanisms. I used to go out partying with people that I look back now and I'm like, these are not my people. Why would I ever hang out with them? And not that's not to slag them off, but we are not the same. Like, different morals, different things. Do you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I look back now and I'm like, I just wanted to be liked by anyone, and that meant like doing whatever just to please people. Do you know what I mean? And then I've got, let's have a little look. Yeah, so the ones then, as I said, like the ones worth examining on a closer level, because sometimes you might think, no, that's a really good coping mechanism. But it's like if you actually sit there and look deeply into it, just because you think it brings you joy. Because that's the thing, like for me, I thought partying brought me joy because I was enjoying myself at the time. But then it's the aftermath of how that felt. So is it bringing me joy? No, it's not. I feel like it's fake joy that I made up in my head just to, just to cope. And then also we've got like rebuilding you on your own terms, right? So what do you actually like? So like what, it's not like not what you're good at, right? So what do you actually enjoy? I had this conversation with one of my clients actually, because she's going through like a bit of a crisis with work. Like she doesn't know what she wants to do, and I always say like, don't look at what your passions are, right? So it's like, not something that gives you validation, not, something that you actually really love, that you can show up to every day. You don't have to mask. Like, it's not hard, it's easy. Do you know what I mean? You might get a bit tired because we all do, you know what I mean? But what is something that you generally really enjoy? It's not forceful. You don't get burned out by it, right? Because that they are things you want to look at. And like rebuilding is slow and it is often boring as well, right? And it doesn't have the urgency that your brain is used to either. So a lot of people will find this difficult to rebuild. I think I wouldn't say it was easy for me, but I obviously transitioned into bodybuilding, which is a full-time thing. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't find it particularly that hard. So, but it's like a hobby. So if you have a hobby, like, I don't know why I keep saying horse riding, but it keeps coming into my head, right? So if it's like horse riding or something like that, like something that you really, really enjoy, it could be like pottery, anything like that, right? Like, get into it. If there's no element of masking and it's not detrimental to you or anyone around you, um, do it. Do it. Do you know what I mean? It's something you could do with people as well, I think. And then this is a big one, right? So you will have to disappoint people as you change, right? So no one stays the same ever, right? And you will probably lose a lot of people. Did I? Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, I lost everyone in Wales. Everyone. And it's not because we had this big huge argument. It's not nothing like that. I changed. I started saying no. I stopped being a pushover. And some people don't like that. Some people just don't like that. So when you start saying no, you will lose a lot of people. But I don't want you to be upset over that, because not everyone you lose is a loss. You will start realizing who your friends are and who aren't your friends. But that's quite a healthy thing. Do you know what I mean? Because these people are draining your energy and you don't even know it. So yeah, you will have to just disappoint people. You're allowed to disappoint people. Sometimes we'll disappoint people when we don't even mean to disappoint people. God, I disappoint people all the time and I don't mean to. But you speak about it, do you know what I mean? But for the people who don't bring you anything, just leave them be. Do you know what I mean? Let them go. A new identity doesn't mean a new personality either. That doesn't mean that now you, like, if for me, for example, I have to start wearing pink all the time, and start living like, I don't know, horse riding. That doesn't mean that, right? It means that, like, you're rebuilding yourself and you're setting boundaries for yourself. And you've got clarity now. Like, you're not weird, you're not lazy, you're stupid, or you're not useless. So all the things that you thought you were because of how your past looks like, you're none of those things. It just means you are you, but you're going to be a more resilient you. You're going to be a stronger you. You're going to be a better you because you've got clarity now and you know how to avoid feeling how you've been feeling, right? It's the best thing in the world, honestly. Like, anyone, like, if anyone's not my client here, right? If you ever want to DM me about it, please DM me, because honestly, my life has transformed for the better. I can count my friends on one hand, and I love that, because I don't want to be in a big friendship group of girls where they're all fake and masking. No, thank you, because I know a lot of us as well. If you don't have a big friendship group, I was speaking to one of my clients, and she hated it. She's like, I don't have a big friendship group, and I'm like, trust me, big friendship groups, you find you're not really friendship group, it's more of acquaintances, right? And that's not always, I'm not speaking for everyone, but usually 9 times out of 10 it is. And as I said, like, the goal isn't for you to be someone else. As I said, like, I'm not gonna become like someone called Cindy who wears pink and does horse riding. Do you know what I mean? You're just gonna have better values for yourself, right? And then moving from performing yourself to actually being yourself, right? So what that basically means, you're going to be more authentic to you. You're going to set boundaries. You're going to be a bad bitch, right? You're going to say no. And you're going to, if people want you to do things you really don't want to do, or better, if you say yes to something because you genuinely wanted to do it at that time and it comes closer to it and you don't want to do it anymore, you can say no and still feel no guilt, no shame. And people probably listen to this and that would probably make them feel unwell because they would never do that. But it's just about rebuilding yourself and feeling good and, like, having better relationships and having better friendships and being in, say, spaces where you generally feel safe. And it's having that authenticity as well for you. I'm just reading as well. I think I've got covered everything here, but it's just about actually being you. And, like, with my friends, I can be truly me. I don't get burnt out around my friends. I'm weird. I can be stupid sometimes. I can be silly, but that's part of who I am, and that's something I hid away for a very long time because I was embarrassed about, and I thought no one's gonna like me. And I just think, do you know what? If someone doesn't like me now, I don't care. Like, I don't care. We're not meant to, like, love everyone. We're all different for a reason. Like, I don't hate anyone, but I'm allowed to dislike people. People are allowed to dislike me because we're different and we're on different journeys and different paths, and that's okay. But just stop living your life on other people's terms, because I promise you're going to have a very sad life. You're going to have a very long life. It's going to feel like a very boring life, right? So you want to start doing things for you. Because my life, I've completely transformed. I have a smaller circle. I'm not burnt out as much. I no longer mask in front of people. And even with my clients as well, I only work with clients who I want to work with. And that does not mean like, oh, I can pick and choose. It's not that at all. If I don't gel with someone, I won't work with them. Whereas before, I would work with them. They would give me the worst anxiety. We just didn't gel, and I'd feel really depressed. I get anxious with my check-ins, and then I used to hate check-ins then. Whereas now, like, if I'm on a call with someone and we just don't, if we don't sort of gel, like, I won't say to you like, oh no, I dislike you. I might just say, okay, we might not be a great fit, but that would be like matched. If I don't really gel with you, you're not going to really gel with me. It's going to be matched. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It's something I really want to speak about for a while. I will be filming the next 2 next week. So I can't wait to post that. I don't know if you can hear Ted because he's like sleeping. Bless him. But yeah, can't wait to see you all next week.